Hi guys, welcome back. For today's video, I'm going to be doing a basic eyeshadow tutorial. So everything you need to know to begin to play with eyeshadow. So I'm going to be talking about how to prep your eyes for eyeshadow and what are the basic ways that you can apply shadow, how to choose colors for eyeshadow, and basically everything you need to know so that you will be able to use eyeshadow properly. So if you're interested in that, then keep on watching. I have already done my base, my concealer, and now I'm just gonna go straight to the eyes. So I haven't applied any concealer on my eyes yet. I haven't set my concealer under my eyes as well, because I will start by showing you how to prep the eyes for eyeshadow. So first, I'm gonna use an eye primer. So this is the Essence 2-in-1 eyeshadow and primer. I like to use this because I can apply it with a brush and then it doesn't peel. So I just take a fluffy synthetic brush like this one, take a small amount. You won't be able to see it on the brush, but trust me, it works. And then see, there's a bit of white showing through. This just prepares the eyes for eyeshadow by filling in any cracks and smoothing it out just like a regular face primer. So it has silicone, so it feels kind of dry and slippy until it sets, and once it sets, it stays there. So not only does it prepare your skin for eyeshadow, it also serves as a surface for the eyeshadow to stick to so that it lasts longer. Just be careful not to apply too much, because if you apply too much, the primer will peel and your eyeshadow will be uneven. I also apply like to the wing area here so that the eyeshadow will blend out evenly. After this, you can add foundation or concealer to the eyelid so that the skin tone matches with the rest of the face. On one eye, I'm going to be doing a more everyday eyeshadow kind of look, and on the other eye, I'm going to be doing a classic smoky eye. So for the classic smoky eye, I'm going to be adding concealer so that it will be more polished and even as well. So I'm just going to take a bit of concealer and apply it straight to the eyelid. From the eyelid up to the brow bone and also on the outer corner. So now we're going to set both of the eyes. So this one has the concealer, this one doesn't. So see the difference? This one looks more even and uniform with the rest of the makeup, while this one is just a slightly less tired eye because it has a bit of eye primer with some pigment in it. I'm going to use my trusty banana powder, both the under eye and the eyelid. So I'm going to use the same powder, the banana powder, just so that it's simpler and easier, because you can use setting powder or you can also use like a flesh toned eyeshadow powder. Then make sure to also set this area where you're gonna wing out your eyeshadow if you want to, so that it blends well with the rest of the skin. So if it's completely set, it shouldn't have any drag or pull to it when you apply powder. So to start with the everyday eyeshadow look, I'm gonna use the Lorac Unzipped palette. So the Lorac Unzipped palette is a great palette for everyday use and also for a great night glam look, because it has a satin base shade you can use all over the eye and on the brow bone if you want to go for all matte type of look. And then it also has 5 shimmer shades of different tones that you can use as a highlight shade. And then you have 4 different matte shades, matte and satin shades of different intensities. You have a transition shade, you have a light contour shade, and then you have deeper contour shades for the eyes. So it's a really great, well thought out palette. I highly recommend it, and this was my first palette ever. I'm going to use the shade Unreal to demonstrate the everyday eyeshadow look. I'm just going to use one brush. To use the shade Unreal, I'm just going to use my finger so that it's less complicated, and it also has the best color payoff. So I'm gonna use Unreal, and I'm gonna apply it all over my right eyelid. I'm just gonna tap it on all over. So you should fill up the area up to here, the orbital bone, so that you can still see the highlight shade when you open your eyes, especially if you have heavy eyelids or hooded eyes. And then once that's done, you can then take this shade, Unconditional, which is the lightest transition shade in this palette. So I'm gonna take this shade, tap it onto my Zoeva 227 brush, and I'm gonna sweep it onto the orbital bone. So the most common mistake I see on other people is they apply eyeshadow only to the top of the mobile lid. That way, especially if you have hooded eyes and heavy eyelids, your eyeshadow will disappear and all your hard work will be for nothing. So you have to take it higher, you have to reach the orbital bone so that people can actually see your eyeshadow. It will also really define your eyes, because the whole point of eyeshadow is to define the eyes and to add dimension to the eye. So you want to emphasize the orbital bone here so that you will emphasize the shape, and that's what we're gonna do with the transition shade. Just tap it on the orbital bone. I'm starting with the outer corner because I want the most color payoff there on the outer corner, and then blend it inwards using back and forth motions. When you're blending your eyeshadow on the orbital bone or on the crease, relax your eyes and look down if you have hooded eyes, or look straight ahead so that you can see exactly how other people will see your eyeshadow, and you know if you need to bring it up higher or if you're going too far up. I like to look downwards because I can see the exact placement of the eyeshadow when I do that. That's it. That's blended perfectly. So this is like already a great everyday eyeshadow, but if you want to pump it up even further, you can just add more of the transition shade and then pop that on the outer corner. Just press it in using the same brush and back and forth again, upwards. And then just in small circular motions, buff it outwards. Now if you want to wing it out, you can wing it out by adding more of the transition shade and then sweeping that along this ridge here where your eye will naturally wing out. As for me, because I have more rounded eyes, I just like to follow the natural shape for every day. And then as a finishing touch, you want to complete the eye look by also adding the transition shade on the lower lash line. So I'm gonna take the same shade, Unconditional, and just blend it down on the lower lash line. This will just complete the eye look and make it one with the rest of the makeup so that you don't end up with a floating eye. And that's a simple everyday eyeshadow look, but you'll often see this type of eyeshadow on the red carpet, on musicians, on celebrities. They're always sporting this kind of eyeshadow. And then if you want to take it further, you can just take the same shade and pop it on the inner corner of your eyes as well to just highlight the inner corner. So take your ring finger and just press it in. And that way, it's a bit more glamorous and flattering, and you can use this anywhere, like I said, for everyday or even for more formal occasions. It's very subdued, but it's very, very flattering. If you want to, you can add eyeliner. I personally wouldn't add any more eyeliner because I personally don't use eyeliner for every day, so it's up to you whether you want eyeliner or not. Let's go to the other eye, and I'm going to show you the classic smoky eye. When doing an eyeshadow look, especially the classic smoky eye or any classic eyeshadow looks, you're usually going to need around 3 shades because you're going to need like a highlighting shade or a light brow bone shade, then a transition shade, and a very deep contour shade for smoky eyes. For this eye, we are going to be using the same palette, but we are going to be using more shades. We're going to be using the deepest contour shade, the second deepest contour shade, and then we're going to go back in with the transition shade that we used earlier. While doing the smoky eye, an eyeliner is optional. For me, I like to use an eyeliner for tight lining and then the eyeshadows to create the definition of the smoky eye. So there are 2 ways you can do it. You can start with the deepest shade or you can start with the lightest shade. I'm gonna start with the lightest shade because it's the safest way to do a smoky eye. So first, I'm gonna take the lightest shade here, the shade in Undercover. I'm gonna use it on my brow bone. I'm gonna take a different brush. I'm gonna use the Zoeva 221 Luxe Soft Crease brush. I'm just gonna sweep it on my brow bone. So this also gives something for the eyeshadow to blend into. If you have hooded eyes, be careful not to over highlight your brow bone because it can make this portion of your eye puffier and emphasize your hooded eyes or your heavy eyelids more. So just concentrate on this area here if you have hooded eyes. Now I'm going to move on to the second lightest shade, the same shade we used earlier, Unconditional. So I'm just going to load up the Zoeva 221 and then I'm going to start from the outer corner of the orbital bone again. So we are gonna start here. If you can feel that on your own eye, we are just gonna trace the orbital bone using the transition shade. Then I'm going to apply more and just bring it down some more into the actual crease on top of the mobile lid, because we are gonna be blending and blending and blending. So this will just help the shades that we're gonna be using blend in with each other more so that it doesn't look messy. I'm using both back and forth motions and small circular motions to really buff in the powder into the eye. We're done with the transition shade. Next, I'm going to be applying the shade Unbridled. This is the second deepest shade all over the lid to create that smoky eye. This brush will also work, but it's gonna be too fluffy and it will create a bit of fallout. So I'm gonna use a flatter brush to prevent fallout. So I'm gonna use the Sephora medium shadow brush, load it up and apply it on the lid with the shade Unbridled. Tap off the excess and I'm gonna tap the product into the eye. So you want to go with tapping motions so that there's as little fallout as possible because we are using deep shades and we don't want excess fallout that might disturb the makeup underneath. So I'm just tapping it in. Classic smoky eye is usually round and it goes from the lightest to the darkest on the lash line and then it smokes out to the lightest again on the lower lash line. It's a smoky eye because the eyeshadow smokes out. And don't fret if it's a bit messy because we are going to be blending that in later. Once it's on the lid, you want to take the same brush that you used on your transition shade and blend that into the crease. So again, I'm using both back and forth motions and small circular motions. Again, look straight ahead or look down so that you can see exactly where the shadow is going and how much shadow you have on your eye. Keep your eye open while you're blending. And then don't press too hard on your skin because it will prevent the eyeshadow from blending out properly and it will also hurt your skin. Be very light-handed when blending. That's perfectly blended now. And we are not done yet. If you can see, there's still a space in between the warm chocolate brown shade that we used all over the lid and the lash line. And to create a proper smoky eye, we need to fill that space in with darkness. So we are going to be using the deepest contour shade, Untamed. And I'm going to be taking a precise brush. This is the Chikuhodo RS-4. I'm going to take Untamed, tap it in. Of course, you can use a different eyeshadow brush. You can use like a smaller flat brush, which will work fine as well. I'm using both tapping and smudging motions. So the upper lid is done. Now we have to work on the lower lash line. So on the lower lash line, we have to apply the same shades so that it really smokes out. So I'm going to start with the deepest shade closest to the lash line. I'm going to take Untamed using the same brush and just glide that on the lower lash line as close to the lash line as possible, making sure to connect that with the upper lash line so that it looks like just one entity. There's eyeshadow on my eye. To finish the eye look on this side. Now I'm gonna take a slightly bigger brush. So far I've used 4 brushes for the smoky eye. I've used the fluffy crease brush, a flat shading brush for the eyelid, then a small pencil brush to smudge the deepest color, and then now I'm gonna move on to a precise blending brush. This is the Zoeva 231 Luxe Petite Crease. I'm gonna use this brush to run unbridled all across the lower lash line as well, but lower than the deepest shade. So I'm actually mirroring the upper lash line. And lastly, I'm gonna use the same brush. I'm gonna take Unconditional, the light transition shade that we used, and I'm gonna wrap it around the lower lash line as well. This way, the eyeshadow really smokes out underneath and it's gonna be super dramatic. And then you want to take a fluffy crease brush again, the same one that you used, or a clean one, and just clean up the edges of your eyeshadow. This is the final look with the classic smoky eye on one side and the everyday eyeshadow on the other side. I personally love both looks and use them all the time. They are both classic looks and they are very easy to recreate. With practice, you can get them down really easily and perfect your own version of the classic smoky eye because you can use it for all sorts of events. You will be seeing both of these eyeshadow looks on celebrities a lot of the time. It's usually just a variation of these 2 looks. Of course, there are many other ways to apply eyeshadow, but these are 2 of the basic ways that are usually used the most. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Leave a comment down below and I will see you next time. Bye!